Azerbaijan's number 2 player Ulviyya Falaliyeva takes on Vaishali in the 6th round of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. Both of them are in the lead currently with 4 points out of 5, and this is going to be very interesting battle. Vaishali responds back with e4 e5, and Ulviyya goes knight to c3, an interesting move here by her because she doesn't want to play those lines which Vaishali is good at with knight to f3. So she decides to go for something different. Perhaps here knight to f6 comes out, attacking the e4 pawn, bishop c4. There's a very interesting line, by the way, here where you take the pawn, take, and d5. But there's also queen h5, and it's a very sharp line that goes knight d6. So Vaishali thinking about it, but goes knight to c6 and d3 played here, just getting the bishop outside the pawn chain and pushing the pawn forward. Bishop goes to b4, pinning the knight here on b4. And pawn to a3. Now this bishop could potentially take the knight, and Vaishali does it, but it does give white the bishop pair, and black has a small lead in development and uses that now to continue in a very energetic way. d5, love this move, very nicely played, because pawn takes pawn, knight takes. You can see all of black pieces nicely developing. Pawn takes pawn taken here by Ulviyya, and Vaishali will take back here with the knight. Knight takes d5. Knight comes to e2, defending the pawn on c3. And here bishop g4 is a very typical move. I believe Vaishali is maybe in her prep, maybe she's trying to recollect her moves because she's already taken 13 minutes here. But with bishop g4, it kind of forces the opponent to play f3, and then she comes back, bishop e6. The bishop moves back, bishop takes on d5. And now bishop takes on d5. Ooh, takes with the queen. Nice. And pawn to c4, attacking the queen here. And black can put the queen back on d7 or d6. Both look good. She goes queen c5, which is also a nice move here. Now the castling is stopped here, so bishop goes to d2, and Vaishali very bravely castles long. She's fearless here. She brings her king to c8 even though the b file is open, because I think somewhere Vaishali does feel that her pieces are well positioned. Queen b1, maybe with the idea of playing bishop to b4. It's possible. And now Vaishali brings her knight to d4. Very nice move. I think it's positions like these where Vaishali truly excels. Ulviyya goes bishop to b4. And maybe now queen c6. There's also queen b6, which is an excellent move. And Vaishali finds it. Queen b6, so that you stop the castling ideas. And pawn to c5, you force your opponent to play c5 and then bring the queen now here to c6. So that does limit the bishop. It also gives you the d5 square. Many benefits of this approach. Knight takes d4. And I can take now with the rook, but also with the pawn. Both moves are good. Takes back with the pawn here. And white castles. Rook comes to d5. and queen to e1. Vaishali starts pushing her pawns on the king side. h5 played. Meanwhile, it's very difficult for white to get going. She plays c4, but en passant, this move will definitely get a comment in the YouTube section like, what was that move? How did that happen? Well, it's en passant, guys. Read it up. Queen takes c3 happens here. And now g7 pawn is hanging. So rook g8 is a nice move. She goes f6, which is also fine. Rook g8 had some more power because of g5, g4 ideas, but this also pretty good. Ulviyya brings her rook to e1, attacking the bishop here, which is slightly soft there. And Vaishali pushes forward. Very important to stop this pawn in its tracks with h3, but instead she goes rook e3. And I think that's not a good idea, because to let a black pawn come into the position with h3 is very, very dangerous here, especially because black has the light squared bishop, white has the dark squared bishop, and h3 would kind of weaken the light squares. g3 played here. And rook to d8. White plays rook to d1. And now a very powerful move that Vaishali has in this position is a5. She finds it. What a beautiful move, because she forces bishop takes a5. And now rook takes c5, attacking the queen, also the bishop on a5. So she goes queen e1. But if you look at it now, suddenly the black pieces are insanely active. There's a mate threatened here. You can't take the bishop. Queen e2, trying to defend the pawn on f3. And the bishop falls here on a5. She takes on g4. But if you count the number of pawns here, it's equal. But Vaishali chops off one pawn. The d3 pawn is weak. And just look at the value of that h3 pawn. I would say it's like an extra piece that black has because of the mating threats that are created. Queen to g4 check. And king goes to b8. Now the d3 pawn is super weak. She finally gets rid of that h3 pawn. That was a danger guy there. Queen b6. Vaishali pins the rook. The queen comes into e6, and the problem with this now is that after the queen trade, rook takes, you will see that Vaishali is simply 2 pawns up. But more than even the 2 pawns, she has 2 connected passers here, which just ends the game on the spot here. Rook to e5 played by Ulviyya, and Vaishali pushes g4. Rook e4, and now simply going back rook d7, defending the g7 pawn. And when white takes on g4, you start pushing your queen side pawns. It's game over, because these pawns are going to take time to run, and they are not even moving ahead because black has the g7 pawn. h4, king b7, g4 played, king b6, g5 played here, and pawn to c5, pushing forth. And Ulviyya resigns here, resigns the position. Vaishali wins, and she moves on to 5 out of 6. Powerful performance by Vaishali going into the rest day. Here she is in the joint lead along with Katrina Lagno, and she's gaining currently 16 ELO points. Wins against Tokhir Janova, Gulrukh Begim, Eline Rubers, Olga Badelka, and now Ulviyya Falaliyeva. Brilliant play by Vaishali. Hope she manages to keep it up, keep it going in the second half of the tournament, and for the second consecutive time in a row, she could very well qualify to the candidates tournament.